Hello, beautiful mamas. As a working mom, sometimes I can really feel scattered, unorganized, or simply just rushing from one thing to another and all over the place. Finding time for myself and finding my sanity can almost feel like an impossible dream. Can you relate? Well, this is why I have created my free Mama's Guide to Creating Balance and Harmony as my gift to you. This guide contains my top 10 tips to creating balance and harmony in your life, as well as 3 beautiful trackers to help you get onto your journey in a fun and simple way. I have found by incorporating daily self-care routines and practices in my life for as little as 5 minutes a day, I am feeling more grounded, centered, and calm. By me tapping into my best version through these practices, I am also a better mom, a better partner, and a better colleague. Well, really, just a better human being in all the ways. So, if this sounds like something that you would like to explore, click on the link in the show notes below and download your free guide today.
We were all born with the innate power of knowing and wisdom within us. The challenge for many of us is that we were taught to seek answers externally instead of searching from within. And this is the reason why so many of us find ourselves going around in circles, searching for new ways, but could never find the way. The womanly way. It's not the way. It's not my way. But it is a pathway to support all of us returning back to self, reconnect with our inner wisdom through loving ourselves, knowing ourselves, and reconnecting with ourselves.
Tell me and be honest. Tell me should I've known.
So we can start to find our own way as modern day women. Are you interested? Well, sit back, relax, and welcome to this amazing journey.
Hello. Welcome to this episode of the Womanly Way podcast. I am your host, Lala, Angela Wang. I hope you guys are all well. So today's episode was actually inspired by a reel I saw of, I suppose she's probably a famous coach in China. She's really well dressed. She's on this almost like a fashion parade stage, and she's talking about investing in yourself, right? And she started the reel by saying, you know, she's seeing a lot of girls carrying really expensive branded handbags. But when they speak, they're just, there's not a lot of, I guess, wisdom or cleverness or, content, or there's not a lot of, they don't sound very smart. I'm trying to put it in a nice way. And, if you watch what they eat very simple food or very cheap food, just so they can save up and buy a bag and show off to people and, have that appearance as if they're rich. She's like, no, I don't do that kind of surface stuff. But what I do is I invest in myself. I essentially chuck money at myself. And she talked about how she spent a lot of money doing cosmetic things like Botox, or even like cosmetic adjustment or surgeries to make her features look better. But she also talked about how she doesn't do like the celebrity look that everybody's going for. So she wants herself to look unique. But at the same time, she also invests in like the best personal trainers, the best coaches, the best mentors that she can find in the industry. And this is essentially what she said. If you really want to love yourself and invest in yourself, don't invest in the material stuff. Invest in things at yourself that will make you the best version that you could be. Now, I had mixed feelings about this reel. Number one, I don't agree. And for those of you that knows that I'm a language Nazi, right? I truly believe that our relationship with money comes from our language around money. So I don't believe using the word chuck in terms of how you describe you spend your money. You know, she's like, you literally just throw money at yourself. You chuck money at yourself. I'm like, oh, I don't know if that's the kind of relationship I want to have with money. You know, I often talk about having, you know, the relationship I have with money is like the relationship I have with my best friend. I'll look after her, right? I'll respect her. And I don't think chucking money is a way of showing love and respect, unless that's your way of showing love and respect. And secondly, what I find, I guess, difficult to understand is this whole thing about cosmetic surgery. Because I, for one, does not believe that that's a form of self-love. But at the same time, I respect, though, one, at least she's honest about it. And two, at least she doesn't follow what most people are doing. You know, at least she looked at, you know, what's the best kind of feature enhancements for her. But for me, I always believe in self-love and adding value to myself, or, you know, seeing my own value as accepting me for who I am, how I was born to be, accepting me in this body as it is. And I completely agree about investing in, you know, exercising, making your body healthy, and invest in coaching, mentoring, and learning and development. I completely agree. But would I spend thousands, and she's talking about hundreds and thousands of dollars, with the best coaches and mentor? Perhaps not. And I think this is going to be another discussion for another day about my view on coaching and mentoring after all these years of, you know, being on the giving end and the receiving end myself. But today, what I really want to talk about, and what this reel has really inspired me to think about, is if I truly value myself, right? What would I do? What would I show? Like, essentially, what would be my ultimate acts, or what would be my ultimate habits or behaviors that shows myself, or so, you know, what do I believe that I would do when I 100% love and accept myself? How do I believe that, you know, what do I believe that I could do in my life to add value or to add enhances my personal values? I think when I say personal values, it's not like, you know, what values I believe in true, and it's more about what makes me better, or what makes me more valuable than the person standing next to me. And everybody has a different view, expectation about value. And so I think it is important to share those things, right? Number one, it makes people understand who you are, but I also want to give different perspectives. this is something that I always say on the show, it's all about a different perspective. And the womanly way is really about finding your own way. That includes finding your own way to love yourself, to show yourself that you love yourself. Right? It's not about showing other people how you love yourself. It doesn't really matter. When it comes to self-love, it's between you and yourself. So I really thought about this long and hard in the last couple of weeks after I saw the reel. And I think I can summarize it by essentially mind, body, spirit. And I love the way in the English language you talk about mind first, then body, then spirit, because everything starts with the mind. Right? We talk about mind over matters. Everything starts with the mind. To have a healthy body, you need to have a healthy mind. But to me, mind is one, our thoughts, but two, our feelings and emotions. All right, so I'm going to start with that. I think for me, the ultimate self-love, or the ultimate way of becoming the better version of ourselves, is really understand your emotions and your thoughts. Because when you do, then you'll know what you need to work on. All right, that's why we do shadow work. That's why we do, inner works. And sometimes that's, shadow work, I think it's just like the beginning of personal development. But a lot of times what I'm finding is it's really our light that we're most scared of. Right? A lot of us, once you get over your shadow, what you will realize is our biggest task, our biggest homework, our biggest learning in this lifetime is to actually learn to accept our greatness. Because that's a lot of responsibility, right? And our biggest fear is actually to stand out. Tall puppy syndrome in Australia, as we call it. Because we know, and this has been ingrained in us since a very young age, that the moment that you stand out, the black sheep effect as well, right? The community, the tribe, the family unit is going to somehow want to pull you into line so you like them, because then you're easier to be controlled and manipulated, and then you're the same. We don't like trouble. It's a typical Asian community where we don't like trouble. You just literally just keep your head down. Don't stand out. Don't do anything outside of the ordinary. Just, fly under the radar. As long as you're a doctor and a lawyer, you're sweet. But still brag about it, right? And really, and this is what I believe, if we learn to understand why we think a certain way, if we learn to understand the way we think, and then how our thinking affects our feelings, then the first thing that we will learn to do is to start to have those difficult conversations with ourselves. Right. For example, so George has started learning to swim. And believe it or not, my biggest fear in signing him up for swimming lessons is my own fear of deep water. And if I didn't understand all the emotions that I had with my own experience, right, perhaps I would let the emotion run over the situation and never sign him up for swimming. So the story goes, when I think it was 4 or 5, my dad wanted us to stop using floaters and learn to swim. And him being eager and keen and not knowing psychology and how your action affects your kids, and also very hot-tempered, when I refused to do what he was telling me to do, he literally took my floaters off, lifted me up, and then chucked me in the water. Throw me in the water. And ever since then, I had this fear of deep water whenever my feet can't touch the bottom of the pool. The reason why I don't go swimming in the ocean, even though I love water. The same reason why I rarely swim. But now that I have to take George swimming, I had to have a tough conversation with myself, right? And this is the thing about mind over matter. My mind's like, I don't want to do it. And my emotions are like, my fear. It's like I was reliving that moment. But with what I've learned, first of all, I realized I need to have an adult conversation with myself and stop throwing tantrums. And I was like, as a parent, would I want to let my own fear affect an opportunity for George? Similar examples could be even just sometimes I'm extremely pissed off with people at work. Knowing that my emotions are sometimes just a protection response, I've learned to take a step back, to take a deep breath, and just learn all the ways to deal with it. You might be thinking, how has that got anything to do with self-love and being the best version of you? Well, the truth is, for me, not getting upset with other people's behavior, I'm being really kind to myself, because when I get angry, I get into a downward spiral. And a lot of times, I then feel guilty for the things that I say, right? So then there's a layer upon layer upon layer of emotions. When we're layering negative emotions, we go into this downward spiral. And in the end, we go into this loop. And essentially what this loop is us just beating ourselves up. And how is that beneficial to our soul? It isn't. So I think in order to be the best version of ourselves, we need to understand how we think, why we think of certain things, and how that contributes to how we're feeling. Not just now, but also historically. And when we can do that and be able to have those tough, like I said, tough conversations with ourselves, question ourselves with our decisions, and, really challenging ourselves to be better, but also to think outside of what we think we know, then that's how we grow. That's how we improve. And that's how we... I really do want to use the word... I'm just going to put my nail clipper away. Stop playing with it, Lala. I really feel like using the word ascension. It is growth, it is personal development, but essentially, it's all about ascending, right? Because we can get rid of the lower vibrations, remove the lower frequencies, and then we ascend. We fly, we soar. And why do I say that, when you can master your mind and your emotions, the next step is body? Because this is what I believe. When you have negative emotions around your body image, it's actually really, really hard to be healthy. Because you're doing this from a place of fear, from a place of you wanting to run away from a certain look. Whereas if you can learn to master your thought and master your emotions and start from a place of positive emotions and positive thought, it's actually a lot easier to not go on diets, yo-yo diets, but essentially do it from a place of love, and that will give you a lot more longevity in terms of whatever lifestyle. Notice I said lifestyle rather than diet, because it's not a quick fix, right? I do believe that the health journey and our relationship with our body, it takes time. It really takes time to build it. And I say this from a place of, this is how I have experienced it. When I was little, again, Dad, love him to bits, but obviously this guy has not done personal development, right? I used to hate sports when I was little. I was a chubby chop. I was a bit chubby growing up. And Dad has always wanted us to exercise more, to be healthier. And he loves exercising himself. But Dad's got this obsession with profession, I guess, being professional, but also he's very perfectionistic. So he wants us to do everything professionally. He wants us to do everything in perfection. Oh my God, I can't actually say this word today. He actually wants us to do everything perfectly, basically. That's from studying to, sports. And I remember when I was little, there were 2 sports that my dad insists that we learn: badminton and basketball. But everything has to be perfect. And then that developed into his obsession with golf. Then he decided to take the whole family to play golf. But I used to hate it because, well, actually I love it and hate it, because I love it because I can spend time with my dad. I hate it because you get criticized like you're worthless. Like everything's shit, basically. There's no good. There's only shit. And I didn't know this until I was older, and when I started learning about, NLP and psychology. The reason that I hated sport is because it was boring. It was not fun. I need to be perfect with my homework. I need to be perfect at school. I need to be perfect in my behavior in front of my grandparents. And even with what was supposed to be fun, I had to be perfect with my sports. So I hated exercising. I hated sport for that reason. And even when I started going back to exercise or started at the gym, it was a bit like, I had to do it. Because when I first started, it was because my fitness age was about 45 and I was only about 25. Right? So it was, need to get healthy. And then it was preparing for a wedding, so I had to get skinny. So it was all not out of a place of love for myself. It was only until I started doing it for fun, and I was actually wanting to do it because I want to see if I can get 6-pack. And the idea is, right, it's a bit funny, I just want to get 6-pack once in my life and prove everyone else wrong, that I'm not just this chubby chick that can only be chubby. I can be fit too. And not only that I can be fit, I can have 6-pack. And I was like, well, even even if I only get six-pack once, at least I've got photos to prove it, and I can be this grandma, in my 80s and 90s and saying to my grandkids, hey, grandma used to be hot. But that was when I really started to understand about food, understand about health and fitness, and understand about the psychology of health. Right. And this is why I believe our love for our body needs to come after we learn to love our mind and our emotions. Because can you imagine if you keep telling yourself, I'm fat anyway, I'm lazy anyway. What does that trigger in terms of emotion? Shame, hurt, guilt, perhaps sadness, right? All the negative emotions. And these emotions get layered upon, and then you're like, oh, well, what's the point? Right? You go to the gym, and because you go to the gym with these negative emotions, you kind of like not fully motivated. You're like, what's the point? You still go to the gym because you feel like you have to. You keep doing it, and then sometimes you may never lose weight. Worse still, you may be an emotional eater like me. You feel upset, then you eat more after the gym, and you say to yourself, that's okay, I've exercised. But in fact, you've eaten more calorie than what you just burnt. So not only do you not lose weight, you put on more weight. Then you started to get really upset and angry with yourself, right? And you start saying meaner things. I can't even think of the things to say to myself. Maybe like, you fat little bitch, or you fat pig. All those disgusting things that we probably won't even say to other people, but we say to ourselves, right? So can you imagine if someone else is to say that to you, and the emotion that you have around it? And then just imagine that someone actually say that to you every single day for most of your life. How would that affect you mentally and emotionally? Not great, is it? But that's what we do a lot of the times towards ourselves. And that's really, I believe, one of the main reasons why a lot of people find it hard to stick with a diet or stay healthy. Let's turn the whole story around. What if you say to yourself, I know I can do it. I know I can have six-pack. I just need to be persistent. All right? And if you miss a day at the gym, you're like, well, we can do it. If you don't want to go to the gym, you're like, well, maybe if we just go and do 5 minutes. And the 5 minutes turns into 10 minutes, and then, be your own motivational coach. Just think, if you're motivating your 3-year-old, what would you say? It's really funny, I was watching another reel the other day, and they were like, why is it that as soon as our kids grow up, past a certain age, we stopped encouraging them and we stopped cheering them on? Like in Mandarin, there's a thing called 好棒哦, means you're doing great. And that's something I've been saying to George ever since he was like a tiny little baby. Every time he does something well, we go, 好棒哦, 好棒哦. You're doing great. And you can just see now that he has the understanding, how proud he is every time we say that to him. But it's really funny, right? Once we get to a certain age, that's stopped. And that's essentially my promise to myself that I will never stop telling him that he's doing well. Because I believe as parents, that's our job, to encourage them to be their biggest cheerleader, so then they can learn to be their own biggest cheerleader. And I truly believe, and not to blame any parents because we don't know what we don't know, I truly believe a lot of the kids nowadays, or even in my generation, the reason that we have so much negative language, or why we talk to ourselves so negatively, is because our parents model that and we model that, right? Our parents showed us that's how we should treat ourselves because that's how they kind of beat us into shape, right? Especially Asian parents. And that's what we've modeled. So the extension of you loving yourself through minding your mind, minding your emotions, and being your best cheerleader is that you are also, when you become a parent, leading by example. Even when you become a leader, you're leading by example. Right? We're breaking this chain of beating ourselves up. Of course, it's not to, be over the top, and even when they're not doing well, we go, well done. But it's about celebrating the small successes. It's about celebrating, oh my God, you did 10,000 steps today when you only did 9,000 yesterday. And to me, that is me showing myself how I love myself. That's how I value myself. To me, it really isn't about the look. In fact, I'm quite happily going everywhere in my gym gear without makeup, without brushing my hair, because it's just, for me, in terms of physical, it's about ease and comfort. Am I comfortable in this vessel? Do I feel ease? And that's why health and vitality is important to me, because if I'm not healthy and if I, feel huffing and puffing even when I'm just walking upstairs, that's not ease and that's not comfort, right? And when it comes to my look, you might be like, well, but you still put on makeup. Yes. But not when I'm at home. Not when I'm just going down the road to grab grocery. For me at work, I believe that, I do want to put my best foot forward. And I think having a simple makeup says to my client, says to my boss, says to my colleague, you matter. And because you matter, you're important, I wanted to look professional. I want to look presentable. And also because I matter. My brand matter. But I don't put on thick makeup because that's not my brand. That's not who I am. That's not ease and comfort for me. Right? And I don't think that's double standard though. When I'm at home, I want to be bare and raw and, just be my rawest self. But sometimes in the professional sense, I think that in my opinion, I think, not putting makeup on, not brush my teeth, not brush my hair, and going out in a gym outfit. Well, I'm not a personal trainer, am I? I work in a professional field. And to me, it actually sends an opposite image. It means I don't care, right? My job isn't important to me, and my client isn't important to me. I almost feel sloppy. It's like, when you go and visit someone's office and they've got like piles of paperwork and whatnot. What do you feel about this person? Not very organized, right? So I think it's really important. That's why I love personal branding. It's because once you understand who you are, what you represent, your personal brand is essentially who you are. Once you understand yourself enough, from a mind and emotion perspective. And really knowing I truly, truly, truly believe everybody should know their personal brand and really work on building that brand. And to me, that's self-love. That's valuing yourself because you matter. You're mattering so much to yourself that you deserve to dedicate time to understand this person. Be the person that understands this person the most. Be the person that understands you the most. And invest in this brand, in this person, right? In an authentic way. Not building a fake brand, of course. So understanding what is the most authentic version of you and build a brand around it. That's valuing yourself. Right? Just like this coach that I saw on the reel. To her, her brand is a very polished brand, including the cosmetic procedures that she invested in. That's the brand. Whereas for me, it's about ease and comfort and authenticity, right? So to me, on a physical outlook, that's what me valuing me looks like. That's what me loving myself looks like. And I love when spiritual is the last thing that we talked about, because I truly believe in order to have spiritual connection, in order to have a true presence of spirituality in our lives, and this doesn't have to be religion, right? It's essentially your connection to spirit. It could be God, it could be source, it could either be your highest version of yourself. To have that, you first need to have a conduit. That's why people call it a channel, right? And that conduit consists of your mind, your body, and your feelings. When it's cluttered, when it's, low in energy, you're stuck in this low vibration state, you're not going to be able to connect to spirit. Some people are like, oh my God, my guides are never talking to me. The truth is your guides are talking to you all the time. The truth is, are you listening? And this is why I truly believe, you know how sometimes, we say bad things happen in threes. It's not that bad things happen in threes. It's often that because we don't listen, and our guides are like, this message is actually really important. He or she should really have to listen to this. Well, we've tried 10 times in different ways and, just like little nudges, and she's obviously not listening. So we're going to have to try something catastrophic. Maybe a car accident, maybe an injury. In my case, it was a divorce, a failed job transition, and a broken car in a car accident. So within within the 3 months of me separating with my ex-husband, I had a car accident where it took months for my car to get repaired. And then I had, a job where I went from one job to another and it didn't work out the way that I wanted. So I was miserable and I was going through my separation. Some people call it the dark night of the soul. But sometimes it really is because you're not listening. And God, source, universe, your guides, spirit, even your higher self are like, don't really want to do this, but she really need to get onto the right track because she's completely off rail. So in order to stop a train that's going in the wrong direction, they derailed it. So you can get onto the right track again, hopefully. If we were to break this down, when let's say, when I'm not feeling that I've got the energy, when I don't have the stamina, when I don't have the energy physically, I can't connect with anybody, let alone spirit, because I'm just tired, right? I'm just tired. I can't even meditate because I'll fall asleep. And then on top of that, if I then have negative self-talk and negative emotions, I'm feeling upset all the time, My vibration is low. My frequency is low. How do I connect to higher energy beings? Actually, this is something that I've learned on my spiritual journey. When I was learning to channel, I remember the teacher was like, the reality is, if you always make sure when you're channeling, you are of the highest vibration possible, you will not attract lower vibration beings, because like attracts like. If you have got low vibration, you will attract low vibration beings. But if you've got high vibration, you just don't connect. And I truly believe, our spiritual journey is like that. But if you put it in a more practical sense, right? In the last episode, we talked about how to get out of the fight or flight state, the first thing that we need to do is to make sure that we feel safe and secure. Same thing with vibration. You need to make sure your mind, your body, and your spirit is feeling safe and secure before you can elevate your vibration. Because when we're not safe, when we're not secure, when we're not feeling safe, we're not feeling secure, we're living in a state of fear. And fear is a negative emotion. And fear triggers negative responses and then therefore triggers negative self-talk. And then you go into that downward spiral again. Right? So if you're thinking, I want to tap into more of my spiritual self, I really want to start spiritual practices, my recommendation is, yes, do your meditation, but at the same time, invest in your mindset, invest in emotional clearing, and invest in enhancing. Oops, I just hit the tabletop. But too excited there. Enhancing your physical vessel. I kind of describe it like, when your water pipes, when, perhaps the flow, like the town's water or the city's water flow isn't great. And then it's a really rusty pipe. So there's a lot of rust, there's a lot of bacteria, there's a lot of gunk, yuckiness in that pipe. And eventually they're all going to build up. And, it becomes so where the water can actually run through the pipe, the surface area becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. Eventually, you just don't get water. The whole tap or the pipe system gets clogged. What do? Well, you're going to need to clean that pipe, don't you? And if you leave it for too long, sometimes you may get a burst pipe. All of a sudden, water rushing through, and that's when spirit intervened. That's the derailing situation. Or you can think about it the other way around, blocked drains. What caused blocked drains? Gunks, yuckiness, maybe hair if you're a female with long hair, right? And then eventually your drain gets blocked. And how do you unblock it? You do a plunger and then you apply pressure, and essentially what that pressure does is it creates a suction, a pressure suction. You build up the pressure and it essentially pushes everything through. And that's what happens when we don't have a clean channel, when we don't work on consistently clearing that channel, so we try to maintain as clear of a channel as possible with our spirit, with our spiritual guide, with the highest version of ourselves. Gunk built up, spirit had to intervene, and we have life-changing events. What if we just maintain this pipe, this connection, this channel? so we don't have to continually go through life-changing events. Like, life is hard enough. Why are we making our lives even harder, right? So this is why I truly believe it's not just a good to have. Like, loving yourself, personal development, really valuing yourself, it's not just a good to have. It's a must. If you really want to, ascend, if you really want to be tapping into the best version of you always, then there's no other options. It's a must. Everything starts with you and your relationship with yourself and how you value yourself. And because this is what happens, and this is what I truly believe, can you imagine? Once you understand how your emotion works, how your thinking works, how your language works, how you talk to yourself, the relationship that you have with other people improves too. Because the same concept that you use to communicate with yourself, the same concept that you use to understand yourself, is the same concept that you use to understand others and communicate with others. So this is why I truly believe self-love is the first step to loving all people. And that's why I believe in filling in my own tank first, because I'm essentially using myself as a guinea pig. And if I can create this best relationship I can ever create it with myself, then I can recreate the same relationship with the people around me. So if you are struggling to find an excuse, to find a reason to love yourself first, that this be a reason perhaps. Use yourself as the sacrificial lamb or the sacrificial goat, if you want to call it. But essentially treat yourself as a guinea pig. Experience the difference. Allowing yourself to experience that kind of love. That kind of love that tells yourself that you are the most important person on this planet. And once you can feel that, you know what that's like. Isn't it easier to then duplicate, triplicate, to reapply that same feeling, that same vibration, that same frequency to everyone else around you? So if you have decided that 2024 is the year that you take on the journey of loving yourself more, valuing yourself more, perhaps start with minding your mind and your emotions, then your body, then keeping that channel clean, then connect with spirits a bit more. What you could even do, this just came to me now, what you could even do is essentially breaking your ear. I know we're in February already, but you can do it for the next 12 months, right? We can do it from the Chinese calendar year. Breaking down the next 12 months into 4 quarters. The first quarter would be your mind, the second quarter would be your emotions, and third quarter would be your physical, and the fourth quarter would be spiritual. And just see how it goes. Run it like an experiment. But I can guarantee you will not be worse off. Come on, give it a go, and feel free to come and share how your journey goes throughout the year. On that note, this is today's episode of The Womanly Way. I hope you enjoyed the content. As always, welcome any feedback, comment, suggestions. And you can simply contact me on all the socials or on my email, mywomanlyway@gmail.com. Love you all so much, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll see you next time.